What's really going on behind BTS's Jin's smile and Shin Se-kyung's look on the deserted streets of America? Is this just a shooting video clip or a deliberately leaked love story?
Done?
How did Jimmy Fallon react when Jin suddenly brought the Korean actress to his show? Did you guys see that? Do you really realize what's going on behind the camera and the glamour? BTS's Jin, who has just completed his military service with full honors, suddenly shows up at Korea International Airport with someone beside him that no one ever imagined, Shin Se-kyung. Not the staff. Not an ordinary coworker. But it's a top actress who is now the center of conversation across the K-pop and Korean drama communities. And the goal? United States. More precisely, New York. The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon. The question now burns through every Twitter comment and trending topic. Did Jin bring Shin Se-kyung in as just a co-star or as a hidden lover who is finally exhibited to the public? Nobody knows for sure. But the camera, their gazes, the way the genie touches his shoulder softly as the night breeze blows through the deserted streets of New York City, it's all too real to be called ordinary acting. And how did Jimmy Fallon react? Rumors swirled that the Tonight Show production team had changed the rundown suddenly when Jin made one personal request. Let me sit side by side with Shin Se-kyung in a talk show session. The request surprised everyone, including the NBC crew who were already used to the behavior of big stars.
But Jin?
Jin had never been like this before. This is no ordinary promotion. It's not just the return of an idol. This feels like a new chapter in her life. And perhaps her heart as well. And the video clip Don't Say You Love Me, which is packed with a dramatic cinematic approach. Jin and Shin Se-kyung appear not just as two actors who bring a love story. They present as two figures who are like immersed in their own world. A world that only they know the entrance to. In a scene that becomes the highlight of the clip, Jin holds Se-kyung's hand with a blank but wounded look. The words that come out of their mouths are not heard, but their eyes contain words that have never been said. And that night, when the cameras were no longer recording, they were both seen walking down the streets of New York City, without a manager, without bodyguards, without a production team. Just the two of them. Only they and the world do not realize that perhaps a love that has been kept secret for so long, finally, it can no longer be hidden. What is Jin's motive for bringing Shin Se-kyung to America? Is this part of a work contract for the promotion of his latest single, or is there a much deeper personal reason? Why is HYB silent about these rumors? Why is there no clarification? Even Shin Se-kyung's agency declined to comment. Is this Jin's new form of freedom after so long living within the constraints of being a global idol who must be perfect in the eyes of the public? Is this his way of subtly rebelling, showing that he is no longer a young man who can be fully controlled by the agency system? Or could this be just the beginning of a much more shocking story for fans? Shin Se-kyung's presence by Jin's side isn't just a cameo. It is a symbol of the genie's courage to create a storyline of her own choosing. No more boundaries, no more high walls that prevent him from showing the most personal side of his life. But is the army ready to see Jin in this kind of reality? In a side so human, so vulnerable, so love. A fan captured the rare moment the two stopped at a small coffee shop on a Brooklyn side street. In the midst of the laughter that was so loose and the eyes that did not look away from each other, Jin said quietly, "Sometimes love does not need to be explained, only felt." The sentence was accidentally recorded by a fan site who accidentally sat at the opposite table. And the video, of course, went viral instantly in a matter of hours. But what about HYB? Are they going to let this news continue to grow wild? Or are they already designing everything as part of the Great Jin narrative after the draft? An insider from the Korean entertainment industry, who declined to be named, said the collaboration was planned long before Jin completed his military service. However, that is not planned, is a feeling. In one of the training sessions for the video clip, Shin Se-kyung was seen crying after filming the farewell scene with Jin. The staff on site mentioned that the shooting atmosphere became quiet for a few minutes. No one's talking. Even Jin himself just stood sculpting, like trying to hold back the emotions that were so strong flooding into him. Are they just too late in the role? Or is the role actually just a reflection of what they experienced in real life? All eyes are on The Tonight Show. Will Jimmy Fallon tease Jin about his closeness to Shin Se-kyung on stage? Will there be any live surprises that will rock the entertainment world? Or maybe, will Jin admit something that the public has been waiting for years? Question after question kept popping up. Even online forums like The Ko and PanNate are filled with speculation. Some call this just fan service. But many also start putting together bits and pieces of clues. From the way Jin looks at Se-kyung, from how he protects her from the paparazzi, from where the two of them are on a New York hotel rooftop at night. I ask this the end of the lone genie era. Is this the beginning of the genie opening a new chapter? With love, with freedom, with her whole being, one thing's for sure. No matter what happens on The Tonight Show, the world will never see Genie the same way again. It's not just BTS visuals. He was not the only man who sang Epiphany with great pain. He is the one who finally takes full control of the narrative of his life. And Shin Se-kyung? She's not just an actress. Perhaps he is the key to the story of Jin, who has been hidden behind the stage, fan meetings, and the spotlight that never goes out. Wait, how did the other BTS members react? Does Jimin know about this relationship? Has the usually wise RM discussed this personally with Jin? Even the famous Quiet Suga is said to be monitoring this news secretly. Will this be the beginning of a new openness in the world of K-pop, where love is no longer a taboo but a part of the story that must be accepted? Or will this spark a huge, unprecedented controversy? And one last question that until now has not been answered. Will Jin be holding Shin Se-kyung's hand live on The Tonight Show stage, in front of the world? Nothing can prepare us for that moment. The moment when The Tonight Show cameras began to illuminate the stage with dim lighting and melancholic background music, an atmosphere of tension mixed with anticipation pervaded the entire studio. But not because BTS's Jin showed up, because of course it was awaited. Except he didn't come alone. Shin Se-kyung walked slowly behind Jin. A simple black dress enveloped her slender body. Her hair was parted. Her face was plain without much makeup, but the aura she exuded was so strong. The studio audience did not immediately cheer. They fell silent. Not because they didn't know who he was, but because they didn't know how to react. Jimmy Fallon, the host, is known for his spontaneity and great sense of humor. But that night, even Jimmy seemed a little nervous. His eyes moved quickly from Jin to Se-kyung, then back to his cue card. Is this part of the script? Or is this a surprise that even Jimmy himself was not told about in advance?
Wow, wow, wow,
said Jimmy with an awkward laugh. Jin, I didn't know we're having a very special guest tonight. Jin just smiled. But his smile was different. It's not a scripted smile. It's not an idle smile that knows the camera is panning it. It's a smile that hides something. Something very personal. Jimmy continued in his signature style, trying to break the ice. So, I guess we need to talk about this. Who's your plus one tonight? The camera glances at Se-kyung's face. He looked at Jin, as if asking permission. Jin nodded slightly. Then he took a deep breath. She's someone who's been part of an amazing journey I'm going through right now, he replied. The sentence sounds ambiguous, but full of meaning. The audience in the studio began to murmur. Social media? It exploded 5 minutes ago, and when the Don't Say You Love Me video was finally shown for the first time on The Tonight Show's big screen, the audience was bewitched. The music slows down. The screen shows a genie in a black coat standing in the rain, waiting for someone in the middle of a foggy, deserted street. Then comes Se-kyung. They walked in opposite directions, then stopped each other. They don't look away from each other. Scene after scene is beautifully rendered. But there was one moment that left the entire studio holding its breath. The final scene. Jin hugs Se-kyung from behind, in the middle of a quiet garden, then whispers in her ear. The camera only shows Se-kyung's expression shocked, then slowly crying. There's no dialogue, but that expression says it all. When the video ended, the whole room was silent. Jimmy Fallon didn't even have time to prepare the next question, and suddenly cheers came from the audience. Not because they were sure what was going on, but because they knew something very big was beginning that night. Did I ask this a sign that Jin has finally come out of the shadow of the idol image that has been wrapping him? Is this a form of his emotional honesty after years of hiding his human side? During the interview session, Jimmy tried to carefully navigate the situation. But Jin, it seems to have prepared everything. He even had time to say, "There was a time in my life when I could only love in silence through song. But now, I want to be honest."
On me. To those W it.
But one thing couldn't be hidden anymore after the broadcast. The BTS members knew something, and they keep it tight. But their expressions, especially Jimin and Jungkook, spoke far more than words. That same night, fan cameras began flooding social media. Fans who happened to be at JFK Airport reported that Jungkook arrived in New York secretly, just hours before the broadcast of The Tonight Show. No official announcement from HYBE, no promotion schedule. Then why did he come? The short 8-second video went viral in a matter of minutes. Jungkook was seen standing in a corner of the hotel lobby, wearing a black hoodie and mask, but his eyes were clearly teary. A fan approached and said softly, "You came here to support Jin, huh?" And without answering, Jungkook just looked down. ARMY began to speculate wildly. Does Jungkook not know about Jin and Shin Se-kyung's relationship? Was this the first time he saw a reality that had been hidden even from the members? Or did he just come to make sure that Jin didn't choose the wrong person to accompany him? Meanwhile, Jimin, who is known to be very protective of other members, uploaded an Insta story 2 hours after the TV show was over. A photo of the sunset over Manhattan buildings with a short caption, "Is everyone happy if one is honest in his own heart?" That sentence is heartbreaking. ARMY immediately invaded the comments column. They knew Jimin did not originally write. He's not the sarcastic type. But this time, something felt so deep. Is he questioning Jin's decision? Or question the reaction of the ARMY itself, which began to split in two, between those who support and those who reject? Even more surprising was Taehyung's reaction. V, who has so far seemed uninterested in the dynamics of public relations or celebrity rumors, that night uploaded a short video on his personal account. Just him and the guitar. And the song he sang, "Love in the Time of Chaos." A song that has never been released. Never heard of anyone. But the lyrics, "You say love will set you free, but why does the world hold you back?" ARMY riveted. Netizens were boiling. Was the song written for Jin? Is Taehyung expressing uneasiness over a world that cannot accept the love of its idol artists without judgment? And in the midst of that emotional turmoil, another footage emerged, an accidental moment captured on a fan's camera while Jin and Se-kyung were at a small cafe in Brooklyn, the day before The Tonight Show. They sit in a corner, barely recognizable due to casual grooming. But one scene is clearly recorded. Jin holds Se-kyung's hand on the table, then looks her in the eye and says, "If this is the last time I can be honest, let the world know I never mess with my heart." The sentence spread on Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. Everyone starts asking the same thing. Will Jin take a big decision after this? The issue began to spread. Rumors are that Jin will announce a long hiatus after his solo comeback, or even choose a more independent career path in order to explore projects such as musical dramas or romantic films. Netizens began to unpack Jin's old interview with Dispatch in 2020, where he said, "I want to be remembered not just as an idol, but as a human being who dares to love, make mistakes, and stand still." Was all this planned a long time ago? And what about HYBE? The silence of the agency makes speculation even wilder. Many have accused HYBE of knowing about Jin and Se-kyung's relationship from the beginning, and of using the drama of the video clip as a pretext to normalize their intimacy in public. Some even alleged that Shin Se-kyung's selection as Jin's co-star in the MV, "Don't Say You Love Me," was not a coincidence, but rather a strategic move to test the public's response. But if that's true, why does Jimmy Fallon's expression when Se-kyung shows up seem so surprised? And why did the Tonight Show staff look awkward throughout the MV? Did Jin make a big decision without telling anyone? Was this a form of Jin rebellion against a system that overreached him? One source from The Tonight Show. Crew even leaked that Shin Se-kyung wasn't originally scheduled to appear in the studio that night. But he came at Jin's personal request, and since that night, everything changed. The hashtag Jin Se-kyung started trending around the world. But it's not just the hashtag. Hashtags hashtag protect Jin and hashtag let Jin love also dominate trending topics, along with hashtags that are no less heartbreaking. Hashtag Jin deserves happiness, hashtag our moon can love too, hashtag is this themed off, you know it. The questions are stifling. But the world has changed. Jeannie has shown that behind her mesmerizing visuals and melodious voice, there is someone who loves, who chooses, who wants to be honest, and the most painful for many fans, it may no longer be a stage. He may have chosen the heart,